What's up, running fans, throwing fans, jumping fans, all around athletics fans? Welcome to Talking in Ovals. I'm Alex Cuesta. He's Dave Hyatt. What's going on, brother?
Can you believe that next week will be 1 year that we've had this show?
It'd be pretty crazy. It's been a really, really, really fast year and a really fun year. And yeah, no, I honestly can't. It's pretty crazy.
We started last year Worlds.
Yeah. Worlds is what sparked us to do it. And, it was a great event. And me and you just wanted to throw it together. And we have a great guest lined up for next week. So before we jump into all the fun stuff today, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us on the socials at Talking in Ovals. And for those keeping score, today is Monday, July 31st of 2023 that we are recording. So I have a bone to pick with our listeners, Hyatt.
What's that?
We have been running our Send Us Your PR campaign since, probably episode like 15. And I know we have a lot of runners. We have a lot of coaches. We have more and more people listening every week because we have great guests. And I know we have road runners out there and people that are coaching, summer circuits. And I know there's PRs out there. So send us your PRs, your PBs. We want them. Again, I'll say it again. I don't care whether you're as fast as our guest today, which you'll find out that he's absolute lightning, or if you are just running your first ever 5K and you broke 40 and you're happy.
I want to give you a shout out.
We want everyone to know that you're working your ass off. So before we get into this week's show, last week, we had a fantastic show. Jim Lambert, he is a legendary New Jersey track and field and cross-country reporter. We had fun conversations. Everybody got to see exactly why Dave Hyatt is another guru and encyclopedia for the sport. So, Hyatt, it was a blast, man.
Jim was the absolute best, and he brought all of his energy that he brings every day when he's interviewing athletes here in the state of New Jersey, and it was a blast.
So, this week, though, we have another fantastic show ahead of us. We have a person that I have been following for a rather long time. He is Marvin Bracy-Williams. He's a 4-time U.S. indoor gold medalist, a 2-time indoor world medalist, a 2016 Olympian, 2022 100-meter world outdoor medalist, and he runs a 9.85 100. That's his PR. Man, Marvin, how's it going? Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, you are our first ever world-class short sprinter coming on, and I don't say that lightly because
thank you.
Your PR in the 100 and your 60-meter ability is something that is very difficult to find. If I'm not mistaken, a 6.44 in the
6.44, yes, sir.
Oof, that is blazing. So before we jump into your stuff, I have to have you do something for me that's important, Marvin.
Absolutely.
I have a friend out there, Megan Blue. We've talked about her before. She is a coach over in Maryland for high school and stuff like that. And she always knew about you, but she saw you at Worlds last year. And when I told her that I had you coming on, that I was talking to you, I'm not kidding, Marvin, in all caps. Are you serious? Marvin Bracy, I love him. So could you do the honor, because I know she's going to be listening, of saying something nice to Megan Blue, giving her a little shout out?
Megan Blue, I appreciate all the love and fandom and support. You have no idea how far it goes, with somebody like myself. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Blue, you better love that. I told you I'd get you a shout out. So you better be happy with that. Otherwise, we're going to have problems. But
that's great.
I want to jump right into it because, our first segment that we always do, and the big reason why we, got into this show is we want to hear the story. Now, we've gotten a ton of stories from, great middle distance runners, 800, 15. We had Johnny Gray on, Kadivas Robinson, amazing people. But I feel like sprinter stories could be a little different. So what was your spark of wanting to get going and being a runner and that really made you enjoy it and want to do that?
So I'm obviously born and raised in Orlando, Florida. I went to a high school called Oak Ridge, and knowing what I know now, I probably would have stayed at Oak Ridge, but I didn't like it. And I ended up leaving 5 weeks into my freshman year, and I went to Boone High School where I graduated from. But I didn't play football or do track my freshman year. I didn't do anything my freshman year. Wow. I went out for spring football, and actually, believe it, I didn't make the team.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't make the team. I thought I was good enough, but I guess so. I guess I wasn't. Came out my sophomore year and was on the football team, but I was on JV. And I was a starting running back, and I would score like 2-3 times a game, and I didn't get moved up to varsity. I was like, all right, cool. So I had like some friends that was going out for the track team. They was like, hey, man, you kind of fast. Like, you might as well come out with us. And this was my first year running track. So I was like, hey, you know what? Cool. Like, I don't want to go home, so I might as well. Went out, and I think like it was like maybe 3 or 4 like meets in. Like, I hadn't run 100 yet, but like everybody else was running 100. But I was like beating people in practice. And it's funny because I actually had my mom talk to the coach. Like, she kind of went off on the coach. Like, why is he not running 100? Like, you said he beating all these people. So I think that the first 100 I did, I ran like 10:82.
Right out the gate.
And first 100 out the gate. Yeah, it was at the freshman sophomore metro, and I ran 10:82 and I won the race. But I don't know times. I don't really know track like that. I don't know when dated, I don't know none of this stuff. So I ran 10:82, and then the next week I ran like 10:76. So then now people, it's kind of turning some heads like, who is this guy? Like, where the hell he's been all year? The next weekend was the district championships, and I won it with like 10:58. Now these are all legal times. So now you run a 10:5 as a sophomore. Like, right, if I never ran faster than that, I still was in line, for a D1 scholarship.
Yeah.
The next weekend was a regional championship, and I ran like 10:42. Again, legal. I won the race. I don't know how this is happening. I'm just trying to win. And I don't even know what these times mean. I just know that each time is faster than the time before. So I'm starting to kind of like pick up, get some traction and kind of pick up like the sport and kind of, learning stuff about it. And this is just me training with my high school track coach. And we trained on an asphalt track in high school. We didn't have a rubber track at my school.
Wow.
I ended up winning the state championship in the 100 and 200. I think I ran 10:19, but it was wind assisted. I think I had like a 2.7 or 2.8. But again, you still run 10:1. It's like, all right, yeah, it's blazing. Yeah. I won a 200 with like 21.2 or something like that, and that's kind of what propelled me into track and field. And then after the state championship, like 4 days later, I was on the varsity or the spring football team, and I ended up scoring like 3 touchdowns in the spring game. And then teams was like, oh, he plays football too. So that's where like all of like my offers and stuff started coming from, because it was like, okay, like I'm a fast guy, I'm on a football team, people seeing me play football, whatever. And it just kind of took off from there. And then now, I went from Marvin to like Marvin Bracy. And then, we kind of piggybacked off that my junior year. Actually, I went to the 2010 USA Juniors, and I ended up getting 6th place. But I went on a relay team to the World Junior Championships. I think we ended up getting a gold medal.
Nice.
And then so now my junior year, I'm more established. I'm on a varsity football team, making headway in that area. I'm doing my thing on the track team. I come and double up at states. I win 100 and 200 again. My senior year, have a good season on the field, great season on the field. I ended up playing in the Under Armour All-American High School football game, where I made a catch, and I actually ended up on ESPN on the top 10.
Yep.
I ended up winning the state championship in 100 that year, but I pulled my hamstring and didn't run the 200. And then that's where, that led me to Florida State. I was there for...
So I'll say this. I remember when they were talking about you going to Florida State, and when you committed, I remember seeing that catch again at the game, because that was like a big deal that Marvin Bracy committed. He could be a big time contributor pretty early, blah, blah, blah. And that was a really important year that you were coming in, because 2012 is kind of when Florida State was like expecting to start coming back. And me being a Florida State fan, I was pumped, and I was like, like this Marvin Bracy kid, he could really be good for the team. So
I appreciate that, man. Thank you, man. Thank you. So I get to Florida State, and I go to like the camp, and camp is probably one of the hardest things I think I've ever had to like endure. Like, you got to actually love college football to make it through a football camp. But, it was a learning experience. I actually ended up hurting my hamstring like the first day of practice, the very first day of camp. And it kind of sidelined me. And then I didn't really pick up on the playbook like that fast. So they was like, hey, man, we're just going to redshirt you, give you back a year and, let you get your body back and get your mind right. And, we'll see you next year. I said, okay, cool. So then once track come around, I'm excited to make a name for myself. I'm excited to kind of, reemerge. So I get on the track team. I end up winning like the ACC indoor championships. I first started at the national championships, and then I knew right after that though, like I wasn't going to be in college long. I had an opportunity of going professional in track and field straight out of high school, and I didn't take it. But after kind of going through like the woes of college and realizing like I really don't want to be here, I took a professional contract with Adidas to run track. I did that for 3 years. I won the indoor USA championships 3 times, back to back to back. Got an indoor medal out of it. Ended up making an Olympic team in 2016, and that's where I thought like my big break was coming from. I was like, oh, this is the end of my contract. I just made a lot. I know I'm going to run myself into a lot of money. I'm going to be rich. It didn't happen that way, and so I ended up walking away and trying my hand at football. 2017, I spent some time I did a training camp with the Colts. Got cut on National Cut Day. But it was a learning experience. So I said, okay, I know what to expect. 2018 come around, I was with the Seahawks, and I did training camp with them, and it didn't work out. And I was like, okay, I got like one more year of football in me before I put this to bed. I did a developmental league they had called the AAF, and it was a good league. Everything was going good.
I was an Apollos fan. I was an Apollos fan, and I remember, again, your name popped up, and we can go back to recordings of when I was doing my other podcast with my brother, David Cuesta, and we used to talk. I was called Cuesta Dos. We were used to joke. We're the only 2 Apollos fans in around that's not in Orlando. And I remember the Apollos ended up technically winning the league that year, and the quarterback was pretty damn good. So
Garrett Gilbert.
Yes.
Garrett Gilbert.
It's hilarious that I remember, like I said again, I talked to my brother. I'm like, Marvin was on the Florida State too, and I was following him.
Actually, so the very first game of the season in Orlando in the UCF Stadium, very first game, I ended up breaking this arm. Yep. And I knew right then and there, I was like, yeah, this football thing probably ain't gonna work out. I wasn't breaking bones running track, and then the league ended up folding in like week 8. And that was kind of like my sign to kind of get my body back, down the weight and, start training for track again, in which I did. I ended up in 2020, I went to the USA Indoor Championships and I got second, but I ran myself, ran good enough to get a Nike contract. And I signed with them in February of 2020 and then ended up moving up here to Jacksonville to live and train. And then, if you looked at the last, 3 years and how it's kind of played out, like I've had, some really stellar years in there.
Absolutely.
And, it's been such a whirlwind, man, but I'm thankful.
So I have a quick question for you. Going up through football and like being like, a really fast track runner who also plays football, did you have any inspiration from guys like Rocket Ismail and things like that? And then now looking at Tyreek Hill and stuff in the league, like, was there like any inspiration with being like another like really fast, great sprinter that can go play football as well?
Well, to be perfectly honest, man, like I always considered myself a football player that just so happened to be, extraordinarily fast. Like I've been playing football since I was 6. I started running track, at 16 years old. So I always felt like I was more of like a football guy first, which is why I was so willing to try my hand at football, because it's like, okay, I'm naturally faster than everybody out here. I just got to work on like the other part of my game. But I was so far removed from the game, and it was like everything was happening so fast. Like I never really got a chance to actually slow the game down. And like, teams could see that, I was still just kind of rough around the edges. Like I didn't have this. Those college years are very important, to your development as a football player, especially if you go to like the right program who can like, because like the NFL league, from what my agent told me, the NFL is not a developmental league. Like that's why you see a guy come in and if he don't play good 1 or 2 years, they think he's a bust. But, they're ready to get off you and draft it.
What was the physicality level like? Sorry, real quick, Dave. What was the physicality level like? You played a little bit at Florida State, and then you jump into a camp over in.
Oh man! Listen, those dudes are like those dudes are strong, man. Those dudes are big and strong. They get their hand. Like my objective every day was to keep as much hands off me as humanly possible, because like dudes are just jacked up and real strong, man. So you got to figure out how to kind of like maneuver. But don't get me wrong, my speed got me out of a lot of situations, and I think that if somebody would have gave me like, and a really good the opportunity to kind of like stick around, maybe on like a practice squad or something, I could have turned into a really good player.
Yep, definitely.
Wow. So you go to high school in Florida and then go to Florida State. Was your first time on an indoor track in college, or did you ever run on any? Like
technically, no. My first time on an indoor track was a Jimmy Carnes Invitational that's held at the Stephen O'Connell Center in Gainesville. Well, actually, there's a video on. I broke the 55-meter dash record my senior year of high school. I
Nice.
ran a 6:08. There's a video on YouTube. It's like a little blue track that's actually sits above their basketball arena.
Wow.
So with Sebastian Coe announcing that indoor track is basically dead and it's all going to now be called short track, and the potential of it becoming an outdoor thing, is someone like you who is so dominant and really good in the 60, does that kind of excite you to maybe get the chance to show like your 60 prowess to like a bigger arena or something in more of an outdoor setting?
Actually, no, not really, man. I'm actually kind of starting to move away from the 60, to kind of just preserve a little bit. I'll still run some for sure, but for the most part, I'm going to focus on, outdoors and bringing us back some titles.
Absolutely. So I like to go down another spot we like to do. What are some of your favorite memories so far in your running career? Obviously, I think the best is still in front of you because, like you said, you've been coming back strong. Ever since you come back, you've just been getting better and better and better again. And I think it's not too long before that 985 PR goes down. But what are some of your favorite memories so far of your track career that you can kind of give us?
As far as performance based, I would say one of my favorite.
Not even performance, anything, man. Any good memories, anything fun.
So 2000, I remember 2010. It was the team that I had made for World Juniors. We went up to Moncton, Canada, and there's actually some guys that I'm actually still cool with to this day. We were actually throwing water balloons out of like our third floor in our hotel. We were throwing them onto I'm pretty sure it was a German team. And we ended up getting kind of like snitched on. We were throwing we used to throw shit like cars and shit. We were just young and stupid, man. But it was just it was in Moncton, Canada. It was boring as hell. And we just had to find fun in ways that only we knew how. There was something that, I truly enjoy, even though it was kind of the wrong thing. But, it's just young kids messing around, just kind of taking some of the load off at a track meet. Something actually that's very, very monumental to my career is something performance-based, and that was 2021. It was kind of my first race after the Olympics. I didn't go to the Olympics, obviously. I missed a team with an injury. But one of my first races after, I didn't get into the Prefontaine Diamond League. And so I ended up running actually at the Ed Murphy Classic in Memphis, Tennessee, which I'll be back this Friday.
American Track League, right?
Yeah, American Track League. I ended up going out, and that's when I ran 985 in the second round, because we had 2 rounds that I ran like 998 in the first round, and it was just kind of like a staple performance. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like I'm a still here performance. I would also have to add in something that was like really, really big for me, and it's a special day. May 20th, 2015, I was in the bird's nest and I broke 10 seconds for the first time in my career. Oh, yeah. I ended up running 995 and winning the race. And coincidentally, May 20th, 2018, my son was born. So it was also my oldest child.
Congratulations. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
So has it been kind of a little relieving as you took the little hiatus to go play football? Obviously, when you're not training for track, when you're not 100%, sometimes a rust can be there. Has it been nice to see you come back and still be able to pretty consistently break 10 and still consistently be up there and competing with your Noah Lyles, with your Fred Curleys, your Kung Fu Kennys? Like, has it been good mentally for you to know that, okay, I'm back, I could still compete at this world level, that 3-year hiatus hasn't derailed your career really at all?
I think that me taking time off is probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And I say that because I tried my hand at a sport that I had an itch to play. I realized very early on, this is not going to work out. I came to that realization, I accepted it, and I moved past it. And I came back to track, and it made me I was still fresh. I preserved my body because I didn't play football for 3 years. I didn't take a beating. I didn't take a bruising. I just kind of let my body just go, idle for a minute, but I stayed active enough to still retain some of that speed, to still retain some of that fitness. And then I came back with a sharper mind, to be inside of, to be a professional track athlete, it's very, very, very challenging, in the discipline area, because we have a lot of downtime. Sometimes my days are over at 11 o'clock, and you got to kind of find a way to kill that time without, doing the wrong thing or getting into any kind of trouble, because it's a lot of free time, so we make money, We get to kind of, travel for a living, get to kind of do what we want. So you got to figure out a way to, to hone in on that downtime and make the most of it. And that's what I ended up learning how to do, walking away from the sport. So coming back physically, I was still ready, but mentally I had got there. So that put me, up there with the Fred Curleys and the Christian Colemans and the Noah Lyleses of the world. And, just, my discipline and my work ethic is what's going to keep me there.
I love it.
So I want to ask you, as a short sprinter, is there a huge difference from the indoor 60 to the outdoor 100, or it's just kind of all the same strategy for everything? Or are they two just like completely different races that have to be attacked and completely different? Because you've had so much success in both, and I feel like not everyone is able to have that same success over the 60. Maybe they're better than 100, or vice versa.
They're two completely different races. Like it's night and day. You have to attack them both completely different. But as for myself, like I try to like make the 60 feel like the 100. And what I mean by that is like it's the same plan. It's just the phases are a little bit like shorter in each, element of the race, because you're trying to get up and go really quick. Whereas in 100, like at 60, you're still kind of, you just now trying to hit like that afterburner. So for me, man, I contributed that to my, just having a great mind, going in and knowing that like I'm a great starter, and putting that together when I have to the most. And then as far as like the 100 goes, it's like just working on that last 40. So you want to set up that 60 like it's the 100. But if you do that, you're not always going to get the fastest time. So you got to try to figure out how to kind of like, you got to figure out the race plan for a 60.
I feel that certainly benefits guys like you and like Christian Coleman over
starters.
Like Noah Lyles, who, Noah Lyles is at blazing speed at the last 50. It has to be something that, you keep in mind, especially as a world-class starter, which you certainly have one of the best starts on the planet. So is that something that you feel like has gotten you stronger? And like, what is the process now? Like you said, you're trying to get more into that 100. So what has your training become in order to kind of get stronger down that backstretch as well?
You just do like a lot of like over distance, and a lot of like race model, because like for the 100 really is like a rhythm thing. So like, yeah, you need fitness, but it's really more so rhythm. If you get in a good rhythm from 60 to 40, it's going to be very hard to beat you, So that's, something that I've been kind of like honing in on, because I've set up the first 60. Clearly I can run 60 meters.
Absolutely.
But it's about from there, when that check engine light start to come on, can you still replicate positions because your body's fatiguing? So now it becomes, a mental thing. You have to stay like up on top of yourself and keep, floating down the track and not worrying about, kind of what's going on other places, because, like you don't want to run somebody else's race for them. You can't do that. Like, and so especially in 100, like you can't run somebody else's race, or you're going to run, how they want you to run. Just don't worry like that.
So I saw an interview with you on YouTube today. I think it was from April, and you were talking about how you're really enjoying the 100-meter now because it's anyone's race any week. And when you first started, it's like, all right, I'm going against Usain Bolt here. And it was kind of like, not that everyone had the mindset that they couldn't win, but it was kind of like, it's going to be really, really hard to beat Usain, and that you really like now. Because like, I think that's the hardest race to pick at Worlds in 3 weeks, because there's not one guy who's clear cut 9.5, 9.6, 9.7. So like, what was it like running against Usain Bolt, and what is it like now that everyone's so close?
So fun fact, I've actually never raced Usain Bolt in my life.
Oh, okay.
I've never been in a race with him. I've been at track meets with him. Was at the Olympics with him, but we weren't in the same like sections, and I didn't make the final. But I was a part of like when Gatlin was running 9.7 every time he stepped on the track. To run that fast, like I want people to understand that you have to be mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. You got to be ready in damn near every fast. You're not gonna luck your way into a 9.7 performance. That's not gonna happen.
No way.
That's just not gonna happen. Like now you're running one of the top 6-7 times of all time. So that takes like some real work, real dedication, real like, some real sharpness. So every time I step next to this man, like for 3 or 4 years, I was like 0-5 or 0-6 against him, because I knew that like to beat him, I have to run like out of my body. And I just wasn't ready to do that. So racing somebody when they're running that fast is like, it's kind of a shock, because you're like, damn, like we start next to each other and he's that far ahead of me. You're like, all right, now that's not cool. And it's nothing you can do about it. You can work hard and do what you got to do, but like your time is going to come. So running in like that era where those guys were running that fast, man, it's like you only see the same, like, okay, Gatlin could beat Tyson, or Tyson could beat Gatlin, or Boat could beat Tyson, or Tyson could beat Boat. But it wasn't like you see some 10-0, 9-9 guys beating these guys. That wasn't happening.
And you still had a Safa Powell on like his height.
Yeah, you still got Safa Powell. Yeah, Johan Blake. Man, like you got the top 5 fastest dudes of all time running at the same time. Like it's very hard to get in that mix. But now being a part of like this era, because like, I mean, I'm technically one of the older sprinters right now, but I'm 29.
Yeah.
So being a part of this era, like I've stood next to 9'6" and 9'7". So like, 9'9" that don't scare me,
Mm-hmm.
So now being a part of this era, like, that every time you step on the line, if I execute the best race I ran, I can win this race.
That's fantastic. So do you have any sort of relationship with another Florida State great, Walter Dix, where you kind of, so obviously, you left Florida State to do some pro things and things like that, but have you guys ever connected and reached out with both of your connections from Florida State and him also being one of the best 200-meter runners of all time?
We've actually we have a pretty mutual friend. There was a guy, he's the coach, now the coach over at Florida State, the sprints coach. His name is Ricky Argrove. He was my personal coach in high school, and we actually developed a really, really close relationship. He actually was a triple jumper at Florida State while Walter Dix was there. So he was on the team with him for like 2 years, I believe. But Walter Dix is actually a pretty like quiet and private dude. So like he doesn't really say much, to be honest. But like I've always had like a great deal of respect for him. Whenever I see him in person, definitely chop it up with him. But no, we don't have like a real level of like closeness. Like he stays to himself, and I can respect that.
So what is that like with your other world-class sprinters? Because I feel like, I've always kind of chalked this up. Like you talked about how you were a great football player as well. And that's obviously, apparent. You got a scholarship to Florida State. You don't do that unless you're really good. A lot of the sprinters, I feel like, were people that had these scholarships to other things, and basketball players, football players, and they all were just extremely fast as well. What is it like being amongst these world-class sprinters? Is it, all business? Is there some friendliness post-race? Obviously, pre-race, everyone's trying to get in the zone, or is it that competitive where you get, you run your race, give your daps at the end, and then you go your separate ways? Like, how does that work?
Well, not everybody gets along, but I mean, you tend to have like, you meet some people and, just instantly like you'll click with them or not, but it's still business at the end of the day. Like somebody like Fred, we talked earlier. We was actually talking about like buying land earlier. He has like some land that he's trying to kind of like put me on to like, owning my own. And that's something I respect. He actually also helped me with, redoing my Nike deal that I'm on now, because I got a whole new deal. And he helped me with that, like, get like, maximum dollar for, my services. And I have a great deal of respect for him as a person, as a father, as a man, as a competitor. I still want to rip his head off. But, once we cross the line, win, lose, or draw, it's like, the business is over. Like a lot of people in track and field make track and field who they are, not what they do. I have a totally different perspective. Behind me, behind this wall right here, there's a 7-month-old girl sleeping. And on the other side, there's a 5-year-old boy. So when I clock out and walk through these doors, they don't really care about, Marvin, the athlete. It's daddy. So I have a whole different perspective on like, just life in general. And I have them to thank for that. So I get to see, everything for what it truly is. And this is a sport. This is what I do. Like, I love what I do. Very passionate about it. I'm trying to be the best that I can be. But I also, take my time away, kind of feed into like, little distractions here and there to just kind of keep my mind off of it, because like you can't, you don't want to overthink it. So some people get along out there, but, some people genuinely don't like each other. There's like, maybe some beef out there. And then some people just respect each other and just kind of, keep distance.
Do you ever keep in the back of your head that, I might have to run a 4x1 with these guys one day and wear the red, white, and blue with the 4x1? So might as well be like nice enough that we can get along if we have to type of deal, because there's a lot of pride, especially being a short sprinter. If you're chosen for that 4x1, you're expected to win gold. No question. It don't matter who's in there.
For sure, yeah.
You're the best in the world, and that's that. Is that ever in the back of your mind when you're thinking,
for sure.
Man, I don't like this guy, but he's a really good 100-meter runner, so I may have to hand the baton to him one day? Got to be.
Well, I can say this based off of just like I said no. Based off of just like performance, like I don't have any problems with like any. I respect everybody's craft. I respect everybody's skill. We all fighting for the same check, and I can respect that. As a person, as a man, as an athlete. There's some people that there's a person or two that I genuinely don't like just for personal reasons that's outside of the track. But as far when it comes to the relay, like we all had a conversation. Like we all know, like when it comes to the relay, everything you got going on, check it at the door. You know what I'm saying? We're not dealing with that when we walk into this arena as a team. All that personal stuff, we leave it for the 100. Save it for the 100. Leave it there. But as for the relay, like we all figure out a way to get along and bond and go out there and do what we need to do.
I love that.
So I have a question too. Based on the relay, because whether we like it or not, there's been a lot of controversy in the 4x1 in the USA with handoffs. And do they give you guys enough time to actually work on those handoffs as a team, or do sometimes? Because I feel like maybe it's hard to find that time because maybe one guy runs for Adidas or one guy runs for Nike, and it's hard to find that time to really work on. All right, I know this guy likes to go at this mark or that mark. So, like, what do you think has kind of contributed in the past, maybe to sometimes where the handoffs might not have gone as great as?
I think that we have a relay camp just like everybody else. I think that we've kind of had like some hiccups with with putting the right team out there. It's not always the 4 fastest guys.
Right. It's
really more so the 4 guys that like work the best together, because when you see these other teams that we're losing to, they're not faster than us foot speed wise. They just, have their handoffs and everything down. Like, I mean, the biggest disadvantage that we have is also our biggest advantage. And that's that we have so much depth in America as far as sprinting, especially for the relay. Most of the teams, like you see, like the same 4 guys in like an Olympic cycle, maybe 4 or 5 guys, they rotate. In an Olympic cycle, when you have that type of continuity, like it's very easy to come in and like work on handouts. You already know who's running what leg. You already know what y'all steps were before. You kind of know how to gauge him when he's coming in. That's a big advantage when, the Americans, our team has never been the same. So the same 3 dudes don't make the team.
And there's different guys.
So you got to figure out
running prelims than there is in the finals, So
and you got to figure out how well, if we got like Noah's doubling this year. So for him to double, that's 6 rounds already on his body. Like, do you really want him to run the first round of the relay?
Yep. Yeah, no.
Because the first round of the relay is the day after the 200 final.
Yeah, no. Can you guys kind of lobby with the coach and like sit there and be like, hey, listen, we know this is going on. This guy's been running good. And are there standards that you guys have to meet in order to qualify to even be considered for the Team USA relay team?
Well, the standard is kind of simple. It's the top 4 at the championship, and then they get 2 discretionary picks.
Okay.
So they can kind of pick, whoever from wherever. Let's just say like somebody was running 9.7 all year and then, got sick at the championships or got hurt at the championships, but could be ready for Worlds. They can still pick him, because they know he's a great asset to the team. Yep. So the standard is pretty set. But as far as like lobbying, like I feel like we are, at a point where we can talk to the coach and say, hey, we kind of know who's going to be where. Like when you see the team, when the team is made, when 4 people cross the line, you know who's going to be where for the most part, and it's not really changing. So the coaches already be having their mind up. We just got to go out and execute. We have a relay camp. You actually have a couple of days after the 100 before the relay to kind of like still put stuff together. So there's ample time. It's just that, again, like you're trying to gel 4 guys together that have never ran together. So that's the challenge. It can be done, which we've got it done in 2019, we got it done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But we hadn't won again since when the last time America won? 2007?
Something like that. It was a long time. You also had Bolt and Blake and those guys too.
You know what I'm saying? So 2008, we dropped the baton in the semifinals. 2009, I think is I don't know if we made the team. I don't know if we made the final in 2009. I don't think we made the finals in 2009. And 2011, that's when I think Doc Patton flipped over trying to give Walter Dix the handoff.
Yep.
2012, we got stripped of 2012, but I mean the Jamaicans broke the world record on us. It's just been so many shit shows, man. Like,
but the other thing too, like you just said, like Jamaica had Johan Blake, they had St. Paul. Like those are guys that are hard to beat, Yeah,
I mean that as well as like you think about it, it's Johan Blake. It was Johan. It was Asafa.
Yeah.
It was Bo. It was
top
sometimes
five guys
Michael
ever.
Freda.
Yep.
Or Michael Freda or Nesta Carter. It was like six.
Yeah.
It's 5 people. It was like 5 or 6 people
Yeah.
that they were like interchanging. So
9-7
that's
guys all up and down the list. 9-7 dudes. That's tough to compete
that's
with.
very,
Even
it's
if you
very
run perfect,
you feel me?
not
Like
win.
even if we got it together, like you still might think about it. We broke the old world record. We ran 37:04 and broke the old world record, and they ran
lost.
36:8. It's nothing you can do about that.
Right,
Like
yeah.
they just ran, So we got to stick around. Great handouts, great everything. They just ran a better race, and there's nothing you can do about that. But like like nowadays, like we have a fair shot to win it. Like we have the footprint to do it.
Yeah.
We just have to get it's not gonna be the same people that make the team all the time, but we do have to put 4 competent people on the track at the same time who knows what to do and who can get the job done.
So how much goes into all right, Noah Lyles, Fred Curley, they run the 100 well, but they also run the 200 well. So we're going to put them on we're going to put them on the turns. Like, is there anything that goes into that? Like, they'll run the curve, like 1 or lane 3. They won't run the back or the straight because they have that experience in the 200.
Well, actually, you have it flipped. More so often, like they try to put like the 200 runners on the straightaways.
Straightaways.
Christian is always the starter. Like he's one of the best starters to ever exist. He's going to be the starter unless he wants to run somewhere else. But it does benefit you to have like a stronger runner on the backstretch because like the second leg is like one of the longest legs on the relay.
Yeah.
So, and then the last leg is somebody you want to have like really good closing speed, like a Noah or like a Fred. But I mean, I still think that, to me personally, that kind of setup is a little outdated. It doesn't have to be that way because if you look back at when the Jamaicans won the 2008 Olympics, Bolt ran a third leg.
Yes, he did.
When they broke the record in 2012 again, Michael Freda, who was the shortest and the slowest person on the team, and I say slow as in like he didn't run 9:88, but the slowest and the shortest person on the team ran the second leg. He's not a 200 runner. So they pulled it off with that. So it can be done. I don't know how I would set the team, but it doesn't have to be the outdated model of put the tall guys on a long leg on the backstretch and home stretch and just kind of go with that. No, like you just have to figure out the 4 best guys that work together.
So you don't think like running the 200 and running on that curve has any factor in?
Well, every 200 runner may not be like the best turn runner. Now, if I could pick a person to run the relay on his turn, especially my third leg, I would pick Arian Knighton. Yeah, that kid kills a turn. Like he's pretty much always coming off the turn. Like if you teach him how to take and give a handoff, that's a deadly leg. But not every 200 runner is gonna like work the turn the same way. Like Christian has never got beat on the first leg ever. That's ever. Like since ever. Has never lost the first leg. Wow. So it's like he's one, like I say, he's a really good starter. So you have to kind of go with him like out of the hole. Like regardless of there's 3 things in life for certain: death, taxes, and he's getting out like first 60 at the very least.
I love that. So I want to shift gears a little because you talked about, coming out as a pro, you had your deal with Adidas, and now you're coming on, you have a deal with Nike. How difficult is it to get a deal, and how difficult is it to continue to maintain that deal? What are the pressures of having those deals and, doing everything you can? And what is it like if you sit there and you maybe don't have a great performance? Is your sponsor calling you up going like, hey, Marvin, we expect better? Or like, what is that like?
No. So getting a deal in track and field is like, it's like pulling teeth. It's very hard because you have to put yourself amongst the best people in the world in your event. To make like money enough to like sustain a good lifestyle, like a decent lifestyle, you have to put yourself, because it's not you just like you're paying for bills. Like you have to pay for treatments and all kind of stuff, like the cost of living plus like treatments, and to keep your body like at an optimal level, like it costs a lot of money to do that. Yeah. That's why you hear about people like LeBron spending like $2 million a year on it, $2 million a year on his body, because it costs that much to like stay, to keep going. So it's hard. It's so hard. It's very hard getting a contract, man. But to keep a contract, maybe even harder, because once you get the money, they're looking for a way to take it back.
Yep.
They don't call you after like an individual performance, but okay, after a bad year, a bad season, they're like, hey, man, we need to, all right now. There's cut clauses and all kind of stuff, and reduction clauses and contracts. So if you have too bad of a season, they're taking some of that money back.
Yeah, and
that's just how it works.
I actually read a interview with you for Citius Mag where you were talking about how you went back to Nike, and you're like, all right, well, if Marcel signs, I don't sign. If Fred signs, I don't sign. And then, one goes to Adidas and then one goes to Puma or not, and then you get picked. So like, are there that few scholarships scholarships? Are there that few contracts from each company, or like it really comes down to like
no, it comes down to like dollar amount. When you are worth a certain amount of money, like, okay, so obviously Fred was the world champion and Marcel was the Olympic champion. When it comes to a pecking order, I'm the world silver medalist. So I come after those guys. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to like getting paid. So they're going to try to take care of one of those guys first. And when you lose both of them, technically now I'm your gold medalist.
Yep.
So it works in my favor because they both signed somewhere else. So I know what kind of money is on the table. But no, there's enough money there's money flowing in and out of the sport. It's just that every year, unfortunately, somebody's getting cut for somebody to get bonuses. It just works that way because Nike may have 25 athletes, but there's only 3 spots on the podium. Everybody's not getting on the podium.
Nope. Yeah.
Everybody's not making the team. So depends on what your then there's like a top 10 ranking you can get. So all 25 people are not going to be in the top 10. So 15 people automatically finna lose 15% of their money. And then we're going to do it that 15%, give it to the people that are in that,
I mean, and
it's just cycle of life.
And like
crazy to me. It is.
I also heard. Sorry, I also read. That you were saying that like it's not really time. It's all about where you place in certain meets that really help for your contract status, like worlds and like time's great. But if you're
great, yeah.
But if you're a gold medalist in the worlds
cannot take that from you.
That holds so much more weight than I ran this in some meet in Memphis.
Exactly. Our place is the only thing that matters in the sport because that's something they can't take from you. If you beat people, they can't take that from you. No matter what time you're in.
Does that head-to-head matter? Does that head-to-head where you can turn and you can say, like, I beat this guy X amount of times and he's getting this, and you guys kind of know what each other has? Do you guys communicate in that way?
And that's the problem. No. Head-to-heads matter for, like, personal reasons, but it doesn't really matter for, like, contracts because, okay, if I beat Fred 5 times and he beat me 5 times, but out of his 5 times, 3 times he beat me at the World Championships and American Championships and the Diamond League final. Like it doesn't matter that I beat him in a Diamond League. It doesn't matter that I beat him in the Eric Murphy Classic. They don't care about that. They care about like the championships. So no, head-to-heads really don't matter. It's really more so for personal gain. But the second part of the question you asked me,
do you guys kind of know what the deals are like to each other?
No. Like there's a lot of like things being done behind closed doors, and that's what's wrong with the sport.
I was gonna say, do you think that's a problem that there's no public?
Yeah, there's a big problem that there's no public knowledge because
you know what everyone's making.
Everybody, so you kind of know what the market is. So they can get, think about, let's just say because pretty much every collegiate 100 meter national champion signs a contract with a company. So let's just say that the going rate for a 100 meter collegiate national championship is $250,000. You know that you should be making $250,000, just like they did the rookie salary cap. But they don't know that. So these kids don't know that. So they might flash $150,000 in your face, like, look, it's $150 you're making zero last year, and somebody will take that and not know that the dude before them got $700 or $800 or $1 million, something like that. So it being private is a big problem with the sport, and until it changes, it's always going to be a problem.
Are there any clauses in your deal that you're not allowed to go public with your deal?
Yeah, there's like they put that. It's airtight. It's fucking airtight.
Nonsense. See,
there's always chatter about stuff like that, but you don't really know the true numbers of somebody's contract until you're staring at it.
So can we get a conglomerate? And Dave and I want to work on this with you. And it seems like Sha'Carri Richardson's all about this. Can we get the top runners on all of USA from the 60 all the way up to the 10K throwers, jumpers just come out one day and just release all their contract numbers? Can we really and create like a union type of effect? Like, this is what everyone's getting. It's out in the open. Fire us all. See if you could do it. Like,
so that's honestly, like, that's what it's going to take for the sport to really get like that type of traction. It's going to take for the bigger people in the sport to say, okay, like, we've had enough. But can you is the problem. Like, you can get some of us, but I don't know about all, because like some people, like, this sport is really like the have and the have nots. So a lot of people that's getting their money ain't really, the people that's complaining and making a lot of headway, people that's complaining and making a lot of noise about, the conditions are the people that are really more so the have nots. You're starting to get like certain people to speak out, but it's going to also take for like some of the, the bigger people, the stars of the sport to come out and be like, okay, like, enough is enough. But, again, the stars of the sport are eating very well.
And we had Clayton Murphy on the show a little while ago, 800-meter runner, and he was big on it. It was right after Sydney McLaughlin pulled out of, I think it was the LA meet. And he wasn't shy, and he said that just can't happen. Like, those types of things can't happen unless, like, like, we need our biggest stars. And I think Clayton is one of those people that would, lead the way with some of the other athletes in trying to make this type of change, because I think it's something, we're trying to push for to get you guys paid. Part of the show is to tell stories, but part of the show is to talk about with all you guys the problems in the sport, because there is a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Guys like you who run a 985, who's a silver medalist, who consistently wins United States championships, should not be concerned for money. Like, there's no reason why you are ever concerned. There's no reason why your training isn't paid for. Like, these are the type of things that pro athletes expect to have done for them. And the fact that we've had, great pro after great pro starting to come on this show, it's kind of ridiculous. We had Eric Sawinski on not too long ago. The greatest,
I like Eric.
Greatest pacer on the planet right now, has paced more world and national champion records, I think, this year than anyone ever. Guy's not sponsored at all. Now, we have Eric Holt, 953 miler, not sponsored, just beat a bunch of sponsored guys. And I think there's a huge problem in the way everything's going. And, God happy for you. You have a sponsorship, and I love the fact that you do. You deserve it. But I think that's got to be one of the things that we need to figure out. I think it's tough because, like you said, the people on the top, and I'm not afraid to say it, your Noah Lyles, your Sydney McLaughlins, your Ryan Krausers, your big names that are the world championship athletes need to call for a union. Sha'Carri's out there on her own right now, putting her neck out. And we'll see if Sha'Carri gets a world title. If she changes her tune, who knows? I don't think she will. But we got people like that. We need people to join Sha'Carri up bigger, because, we can have everyone complaining all we want, but unless the big names are on board, then, like you said, nothing's going to make headway. Has there been conversation with any of these big names, or are they kind of shelled off from this type of stuff?
Most people like shelled off because, like, it's not, it's very distasteful, because they know like what's kind of going to come with it, so. Again, you got to be ready, because those people, they're going to push back too. So it's not going to be pretty. So, people will lose money, and that's what a lot of people are afraid of, especially when, for the ones that have it, they don't want to lose money. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we've called here a bunch of times that we want some sort of a league, something like the ATL, but instead of, going to an invite at the ATL, it's the ATL coming to you and saying, Marvin, we'll pay you $50K to appear at 5 meets. Like, you have to be at these 5 meets, but we'll give you a $50K contract so we can promote that, not in a month, that Marvin Bracy-Williams is going to be at this meet, but at the start of our season, we can say these 5 meets, come see Marvin Bracy-Williams compete. These are his accolades. This is what he's done. And I think we need something like that, where we can start signing you guys and girls to contracts to be there, and not sponsors with certain teams, but leagues. We talked about it often here, UFC, PGA, even, boxing, even though it's looser, they have promotions. We need legitimate promotions to get you guys paid, and also give you some protections as well that comes with being contracted athletes.
Right on. No, I agree. I agree. And I'm open to like any type of like ideas that, people come up with, because the sport needs some type of change. We're like pretty much the only sport that has stayed the same throughout like the trajectory of history. Whereas like, football has changed a bunch of rules to protect the quarterbacks, to score points, drawing eyes, to get money. Basketball, oh my God, some games they swallow the whistle. Some games they blow it way too much, but it's always entertainment. Like it's always something to talk about. It's always, it's not those sports are now like entertainment. It's not just a sport. Whereas we're still based at our basic model from like the 1800s. So, it's just definitely going to take some type of change to make the sport a little bit more, popular and polarizing.
So one thing that Clayton Murphy told us he did, and I don't know if you'd be open to, and I think a lot of you pro athletes should, is he'll announce if he's going to like a high school track to go do a workout. He'll kind of let that know and then let people come and watch him and kind of, sign things and things like that. Is that something you would be open to as a pro? And obviously you have to work with your coach. So you got to do whatever your coach wants. But would that be something you think your coach would be cool with? Because I feel like that's something that would help grow the sport. If we had
fans,
our world-class, our athletes sitting there saying like, hey, I'm going to be at this high school track doing a workout. Come watch me work out. Come, maybe do a stride with me and see what it takes to be a world-class sprinter. Like, is that something that you would be open to, or you think your coach would be open to?
It's something that I would do for sure, but my coach is a little bit more like old school, man. Like where's
your coach? Get him on the show. Like, get him on the show. We got to talk to him.
He's one of those like, he's very like secluded. He likes to do things a certain way. Like we don't really bring like friends or family to like practices. Like we don't, no kids, no pets, no nothing. It's just come out here, straight business, get to work, go home.
I understand that. And I get it. And I get it as a coach and athlete, but like you said, the entertainment value's got to be there.
The entertainment value, it's got to be there.
Even if it's a showcase, if it's not every workout, but even if it's like, okay, twice an indoor, twice an outdoor. Let's do a showcase with our because you go with your coach. Let me be showcased and invite fans to come watch me work out, because I think we do training camp, right? NFL is training camp right now. Sold out to watch practice. And the words of the great AI, not a game, practice.
So for us, like, I don't know if you know that, but see, for most people only care about the Olympics like every 4 years. Like we jump off the couch, like, let me dust off my shoes and race again. I've been racing in between, like for 3 years now. I've been doing world champs and world champs is basically the Olympics minus all the other sports. It's the same people.
Yep.
And there's actually money on the line because the Olympics is amateur. To be honest, like what's crazy to me is like, because of the exposure of the Olympics, more incentives are to win the Olympics, because if you are wearing a Nike kit and you win the Olympics, Nike's shown on TV, more exposure because everybody's watching. But imagine if we got those same eyes to watch world championships. Like people go crazy over like the World Cup and stuff like that. Imagine if we could get that same viewership for like the world championships. It's the same thing minus all the other sports. I think so. But for whatever reason, people don't want to watch that. People don't watch that. They only watch the Olympics and only care about the Olympics. But the same people just won the world championships and ran in the world championships. However, it just got announced there is a Netflix show that is coming out that has documented certain athletes.
Fred and yep.
So they'll, people, for whatever reason, people don't want to watch a 2.5 hour Diamond League, but they'll sit and watch
NASCAR.
They'll watch NASCAR. They'll watch cars go around in a circle for fucking 30 hours or, golf or something like that, or even a baseball game. Yeah. But now, or they'll binge watch 10 episodes of a Netflix series. So Netflix said, okay, cool. We're going to spoon feed you what you want. So hopefully people see this and that gets the viewership up, because people can be like, wait a minute, this happened last year? What was I? Why didn't I watch this? Yeah. Like they're thinking about the American Championship, the World Championships was in America for the first time ever in the history of ever last year. We swept the men's 100. We hadn't done that in 31 years. That didn't really gain no traction. Nope. It was in America.
The medal.
There was no football going on. There was no football going on. There was no basketball going on. Like we were the only thing popping, and it really didn't gain no type of traction. So that's just, it is what it is, man.
Here's what I think though too. A huge problem is, where do you find these track meets? You mentioned golf, and like they're on NBC. They're on, like, people have to pay for a Peacock, or if you want to watch your Continental, you have to get Flow Track. So I think that the fact that the U.S. Championships were on CNBC at 9 o'clock. Like those other sports definitely they're way more accessible. People are just surfing through the channels. Oh, there's golf on, So and a lot of times when they are on NBC, there's so much time in between each race. that people turn the channel. Like you need a window where it's just final.
Yeah.
So they keep. So I think people have a hard time locating where the meet is. I'm like, oh, Worlds, are they on Peacock? Oh, they're on. It's so. I think if they had a better TV structure, that would really benefit them.
I can agree with that.
And I don't want to dig into your contract negotiations too much, but you've been really awesome and one of the more open books with that. Is there anything in the contract where they're guaranteed to promote you as an athlete a certain number of times or put a certain number of money? Or has there ever been, maybe not the specific one? Because I feel like our biggest issue is people should know who Marvin Bracy-Williams is outside of a highlight in his high school years and a little bit, but people don't know enough of who you are. And one of the things we're trying to do here is change that. We want people to hear your story, to hear your grind, to understand, you're a person that happens to be really fast, not just a fast dude.
Right.
I feel like the biggest issue is outside of maybe Sydney and a little bit of Noah, who else knows the biggest names in track and field? We got Armando Duplantis, who can jump over a 2-story house with a fucking pole, but nobody knows who the guy is. It's like we have a huge promotion problem. So has there ever been, or is there any leverage to even possibly try and include something like that?
I mean, you cannot, everything's negotiable. If you know how the lingo and you know how to ask for certain stuff, yeah, you can kind of you can kind of get that in, but this is also still results based.
Yep.
So it's unfortunately, we're just in a sport where only one person can win. In football, you can have somebody be the passing yards leader this year, the passing touchdowns leader over here. You can have a dude with the least interceptions over here. You can have a dude with the best completion percentage. Like I give a damn about that. You can have a dude with leading every statistical category, and teams and companies will find a way to endorse each and every one of those people. Nike can go out and get Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Tua Tagovailoa. They can go sign every one of them and give all of them $25 million because their brand is going to be shown weekly on Sundays, whatever he throws a pass or whatever the situation may be.
Yep.
However, if I'm Gatorade or Visa or MasterCard or whoever the hell I am trying to sponsor somebody in track and field, why do I really want Marvin Bracy when Fred Curley just won the world champs? What do I need him for? I just got the guy that won. I got the guy that beat him. So we're just in a sport where the winner just takes all, literally everything. So it's like you have to, unless you're setting records or something like that. But it's very hard because everybody can't win. So when you have somebody that's dominant, they kind of get the exposure. Fans start to love them. The media covers them a lot. You get a lot of attention. But if you second, third, you're in the mix, but you're not really winning, it's very hard to kind of get you out there. So these companies are not going to endorse you, especially if that company itself has a star amongst the ranks. If Nike has a 100-meter woman killing it, why do I care to endorse the 100-meter man who's not doing, as much numbers? Or if I got a 400-meter hurdler, why do I care about the 200-meter runner that's could win or not? It's
very valid points. And
I love your honesty and candor.
And
really
it's such a shame, that the 13th best quarterback can get sponsored by all these people, but the third best 100-meter runner can't get the same exposure or the same contract. It's you got See, and the difference in track and field is there's a difference between the top guys and the payday the payday between the top guys and the top-ish guys. So if you're top 3, top 4 versus 5 to 8, the pay gap is really big. But the times may be like this that separates you. So it makes it hard because you got some dudes out there who may be in a final and he may be making 50, 60 grand, whereas he's next to somebody who's making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we kind of know how this is going to go. And he beats him by
because there should be a
400
reward. Should be a big reward for making finals, getting through heats and making finals. There should be a reward there, but right now it's the reality, and it's something that we're eventually pushing to change. So I want to ask you, what is the process like, either getting invited to meets or being accepted at a meet that you want to go to. How hard is that as a runner to kind
every
of
race? Think about it like this, right? So every race, most standard tracks have 8 lanes, right? So most tracks have 8 lanes. So it's all a pecking order. It's a little bit of politics in there, but it's a pecking order. Like if you are an Olympic champion or a world champion or a fan favorite or something, or you're a guy that's known to put out good performances, like they're going to get the lanes first to like the champions, the medalists. Medalists always have a lane unless something drastic happens, but medalists are going to get a lane. So let's just say based off of last year, me, Fred, and Trey got the medals. We're getting a lane. So that's already 3 Americans in the race, right? There's 3 lanes out of 5 already taken up. If we're going to a country like France, they're going to put in, if there's a French dude that's really decent, whether he's going to beat us or not, they're going to give him a lane. That's 4 lanes already gone. You have then, and I think he has the record for Diamond Leagues, Akane Simbine. He's going to get a lane. Like you're just not going to give him a lane. Omanyala is running really good right now. You got to give him a lane. Zarnell Hughes is running good right now. The Jamaican kid, Akeem Blake, he's running good, had a good year. Johan is still getting lanes. Reese Prescott from Great Britain is getting lanes. Like there's Leslie Tobogo. That's like 10, 11 guys. Marcel, he's still Olympic champion. There's 10, 11 guys I just named, but there's 8 lanes. So 3 of us not get in. And then there comes appearance fees. So each person is if you got a medal, the appearance fees go to like the medalists and like the higher profile athletes. So they have to figure out how we don't divvy up this appearance fee, because sometimes they may offer you something you don't want. So then you have, as an athlete, have to figure out, am I willing to take that to get into this race?
Wild.
So it's not as it's black and white as you get a lane, you get a lane, you get a lane, you get a lane, let's race. No, there's contracts. It's all kind of like behind the scenes work going on. That's when agents come into play. Agents kind of help you out in that area. They take care of all that. You sit back, collect your check, and go whoop some ass.
Yeah, and it's interesting to get that in and out, because like you said, we see 8 guys lining up. They do the introductions. They talk about the PRs for like a quarter of a second. You get on the line, boom, they interview the winner, and then wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, the race is over.
It's over.
And that's a problem there too, because there is no story involved, right? You talked about with football. Yeah, he might be the 13th best quarterback, but maybe he got through this big injury, and last year he did this, and this year he's on a trajectory. We get all this backstory. Maybe that has the benefit to do with the time of a football game, right? There's 60 minutes to talk about these people, 3 hours plus in like a presentation. But it's like we don't hear these great stories. Like very few times do they really delve into any of the sprinters, or, unless you are one of the top guys or expected to win, or just, set a record at U20 and things like that. Like they'll highlight those. But I don't think we get enough. And then, it has to go with what you just said, where the winner takes all. So the winner not only takes the money, they take the presentation, they take the stories, they take everything. And again, it's a disservice to the sport, I think, because we all know that if you're a track fan, you know who Noah Lyles is. You don't need to hear more about Noah. Like, I'm sorry, I love Noah Lyles. I think he's a fantastic ambassador. He's been amazing for the sport. But we don't need to hear a ton about Noah Lyles' backstory, because we've known a ton. Fred Curley's getting a lot more popular. We're knowing a lot about Fred now. But there's so many other good people like yourself, like Kenny Bednarik, like, you mentioned all those names that are just consistently making finals. And unless you're a junkie like Dave and I, who sees you guys and really like looks at it, just kind of look at those names and it's kind of like, yeah, but where's these guys? Like no one, like, I think it's.
I personally feel like that would definitely hype up the sport a little bit. If you really got, the fans, because like the media kind of tells the fans who to root for. Mm-hmm. If you're only showing certain people, then they only know certain people. So when somebody else beats one of these guys, but they don't really care about that guy winning, they're like, okay, like, well, what happened to, my boy? So the media kind of dictates, but like, you know what I'm saying? Think about like I said, when I always go back to football because this is what I know the most about. But like, you can root for Patrick Mahomes while still rooting for Josh Allen, while still rooting for Lamar Jackson, while still wanting, another quarterback to come in and kind of have some shot. You root for all these people. You don't root for Patrick Mahomes and says, I don't care about Lamar Jackson. But in this sport, they've kind of pitted us against each other so much because it is just a winner can take all sport that you're kind of forced to root for like one person, and then like fans of the sport only really feel like certain people can and should only run fast, and then the rest of the people is just like blah,
Yeah.
unless you like finally like ascend to a level where you've beaten people so many times they have to respect you.
Yeah. We've had other athletes on too, other people who think, and I kind of agree. What really helps football too a lot is like fantasy football, like sports betting. If you could go on DraftKings and track and field was an option, I think that would bring so many more fans to the sport. Like, oh, I'm going to vote on, and I'm going to bet this much on Marvin Bracy-Williams, and then fans would be more invested in the athletes and in the sports, and they would do the research on, all right, well, this guy went to Florida State, so he has this kind of pedigree, and this guy this, and he beat him 4 times, and he beat him. So do you think that something like that could really enhance the popularity and get you guys paid more?
Listen, man, if they opened up the betting, I think that would do numbers, because like it's like a mono sport. There's no referees, there's no flags on the play. It's just line up and whoever wins that day, especially with like where the men's 100 is right now. It's so wide open that like, you could win. It's really great odds all around because there's so many people that can win. So it's like they're still gonna like hype up like who the favorites are, but you could easily win on a pick of somebody who they don't really think is gonna win that race, because there's so many names right now. So I do think that it would definitely bring more fans, because people love to gamble. So it'll make people actually watch and tune in and see like how the races go. So I've actually had these discussions behind closed doors about betting, and I hope that that's something that happens in the future.
I want to give a shout out to Sarah Slattery still. She's the one that brought that up. Sarah's amazing.
Sarah, I see you.
And I always said that, we should do it in a horse racing style, right? Because not everyone knows who everyone is, but when you give someone the opportunity of just going, okay, I see these guys, I see their odds, I'm picking lanes 2, 6, and 5 to go win, place, or show. It don't matter which way. We're going to do win, place, or show there. And that's, I feel like that would also help. And then you could do a similar thing where you'd saw like, okay, the last 100 meters they run these times, and they've done this. I feel like it might be a little difficult still if they were just putting like all or nothing on one person. And you can give that option to do either way, right? You can just go the straight up like regular betting style, or you could do like kind of more of a horse racing style. I think both, and even in fantasy. I think fantasy would be dope, but we need a league. And I think that's part of the issue. I think a big issue is we rely on World Athletics and USATF to sanction and really make meets. And, screw all of them, honestly. We need a big promotion, because then they can make a deal with Barstool Sportsbook, Caesars, FanDuel, DraftKings, and really make everybody money. But I think that's a big thing. I don't think USATF is ever going to allow sports betting. I really don't think so, because they won't let you guys have more than one sponsor, like on your singlet or on a different shoe deal. And Eric Sawinski brought up he would be fine if they just let him go. He'd keep his front clean, but on the back he could load it up with sponsors, and he can go get a few $1,000s from the mom and pops and everything here from his local area. So it's like things need to change before we can get betting in, because I don't think USATF or World Athletics is going to allow it.
No, I mean, it's really not USATF who stops like the apparel thing. It's more so like the companies, like the brands themselves that really like govern that. But like, I mean, again, that can be like everything's negotiable. Like nothing is set in stone. You just have to know the lingo. You have to know what to ask for, because like you really think they wouldn't let like Sydney like do something else. Like, okay, you didn't want to lose that girl that bad? No. So, maybe she could go and say, hey, yeah, I'm gonna wear New Balance on this side, but I'm gonna wear Gillette on this side, or a Breva on this side, or whatever it is. But, I'm not going to cover up your logo. I'm still going to show you love, whatever. But you also got to be a big enough name to do that, because most of the contracts are really standard, but
can't just go in there being a dick like me and just being like, I don't.
Yeah. You got to come with something to bargain with.
I could do it on this show, and I could throw the ideas out. That's what I could do here.
Thanks. Hey, man, it starts there. It starts with an idea.
So the last thing I want to ask you, and this is the most important one, we talked about a whole lot of things and problems and things like that. If I gave you the magic wand and I said, with the flick of your wrist, you can fix track and field, what would you do to fix the sport?
Actually, I would break off like sprinting from like the governing body of track and field, because I mean, most people come like for the sprints. I'm not saying I would like not, feed into that, but sprinting in itself would be its own like entity. You know what I'm saying? So like, okay, so yeah, you got to cover like all these races and stuff. So yeah, you have less time to kind of show the backstories and something like that. But like, think about, okay, if I advertise like 100-meter dash featuring like 5 of the top guys or even 8 of the top guys, and I did like a coverage for an hour, just 1 hour, and it's kind of showing like, like the HBO Showtime type deal where you see some of their training, you see, some of their home life, you see them just kind of in their element. You know what I'm saying? You see like the warm ups, and you just kind of get like the, the backstories, and you get the stats of, okay, this guy ran over here and he beat this guy this many times. And you get all of that entertainment, and then it leads up to the race. And now, you're tuned in for a 9-second race. Boom. After the race, interview over, cool down. You see the guys kind of cool down, integrate, whatever, show's over, go home.
Yeah, that
you can do that for 100.
That reminds me back in like 96 when they had the 150, Michael Johnson versus Simon Bailey. It was this big hour thing. I mean, MJ got hurt, but like that, like everyone tuned in, even if you didn't watch that, because like it's, world record holder in the 200 against the Olympic champ in the 100. We're gonna run a 150 on a track made just for that, and they built it up, and then they raced it at the end, and like it got really good ratings because it was fun.
Exactly.
It was cool.
And it would just get people to kind of, engage and kind of learn the story, and, you can root for people, and there's betting on it. There's all kind of stuff on it that you can kind of like break off and do. But I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen, but that'd be a really good idea to, be able to line to come up and run and, do stuff like that. And it'll be like a very, popular event. You can put it on like a big time channel, or you can get like sponsors behind it and, advertise it the right way, because I mean, okay, currently I'm like the 16th, 17th fastest person of all time. Like that you can sell that to people. If I tell a regular everyday person that, they're like, you're the what? They might not even believe me.
Yeah, no,
but it's the truth.
But but if they saw you on TV at this event and they were highlighting that fact that, and then that guy would turn around and be like, hey, I met that guy. He wasn't lying. Like that would be, that'd be something pretty cool. And I've said before in a circuit, what I think would be cool is if we, for the junkies, they could pay to watch qualifiers during the week. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 different days: sprint finals day, distance finals day, field finals day. Like you said, split them up, because they are 3 different things. Like you're 1, you're 2, you're 4, maybe throw the 800 in there because your world-class 800 meters are fast as hell. But like, even if you keep it 1, 2, and 4, that's that day. Those 1, 2, and 4 finals are on that day. Men and women, boom, 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 boom. Back, 6 races back to back. Make it fun. Do the stories, and you can sit there and highlight a bunch of people, like you said. And I feel like on a circuit like that, if you're getting to see these basically the same people every week, finals all the time, it would create that excitement. But I do also love your idea where once a year, the race. Call it the race once a year. The top 800-meter runners, like on time, or whoever you can get out of like the top 20, get them, 8 guys line it up, and boom, the race. That I think that would be fun as hell as well.
So, thank you.
I like that idea. I truly enjoy it. But what I also enjoyed, Marvin, was you taking the time to come on the show. Thank you so much.
I appreciate y'all, man. Thank y'all for having me, man. Definitely looking forward to come back with you guys.
Definitely. Dave, you have anything to say before we jump out?
It's just so many wonderful perspectives. I really appreciate your honesty, and that you just tell it how it is. And I think that so many of our listeners will get such a better idea of some of the ins and outs of how the sport works. And you really broke it down, and it's just great. And thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
I would love to get a few more like high level world class sprinters to come on, and then we can do what we call an oval table, where we have all you guys jump on and pick a few topics and chop it up and let you guys, really talk amongst yourselves as well with us. We did it with a bunch of high school coaches we had. We hopefully are going to do it with some of our world-class middle distance runners we had, but I would love to get a sprinters one as well once we can get you guys on.
Yes, sir. I'm definitely open to it, man. Thank you.
Awesome. So, Marvin, you wanted to promote something before we jumped out of here. What is it you do, brother?
Oh yeah, I'm wearing it right now. This is actually kind of my logo that somebody made from like the fan art. It's actually me at Florida State and at the Olympics. So this is like actual pictures of me. And it's on fan art. The link is in like all of my bios on all of my social media, Snapchat, not Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, like all that good stuff. So, for any viewers out there that want some apparel, it's all out there. We got phone cases, shirts, hats, arm sleeves, whatever you want.
And we'll put a link to fan art in the show notes there. So anyone that wants to jump on there, they can. And once again, it was our pleasure. That is Marvin Bracy-Williams that you just heard talk to us. He is a 4-time USA indoor gold medalist, 2 times indoor world medalist, 2016 Olympian, 2022 100-meter world outdoor medalist, and one of the fastest individuals to ever walk on the face of the earth. And that is nothing to scoff at. And I think he's only going to get faster. So, I really appreciate everyone for listening. You like what you heard. Like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Find us on Talking in Ovals at the socials. Just go search for it. And we will be back again next week. We'll have some fun. Everybody, thanks for listening. So long.